Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Room 104, Season 1, Episode 11. It is called The Fight. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. I'd been waiting for this one, because we'd heard repeatedly about there was a fighting episode.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so late in the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the further we got along,
But
it was like, well, I
I,
guess it is
I,
late.
I think I'd just kind of forgotten about it by this point, though.
So I think the actors here actually are fighters.
I
I'm
would
only saying
assume
that
so.
because one of the actresses, her photo on IMDb, she's in fighting gear, and it doesn't look like it was. It looks like a promo shot for something else.
Okay, I get you. That makes sense to me, given that it is mostly more fighting than acting in this episode.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, this is actually probably the shortest episode yet, which
Yeah,
makes sense because the premise is actually very simple. In fact, it has to kind of jazz it up a little bit by narratively sort of splitting it up and jumping back and forth between the setup for the fight in the room and the fight room itself. Because we start off in the fight and we see some of it, and then the round, as it were, ends. They've got like a timer on their phone, and it has a horn that goes off, and then we cut back earlier tonight. We keep getting timestamps. It's like, so 11:03 is when the fight starts, but then it cuts back to like 8:30, and then we
yeah,
see how it's set up. So we have Greta and Raina. Greta is the one who's in this room to begin with, and she was a fight tomorrow night with the other character, Raina. And she is on the phone with her manager, pissed that A, she's not in the 4-star hotel room that she was promised, and B, that she's only getting paid $6,000, which she only gets to earn like 4 times a year. So as much as it sounds great for one night's work, it's not actually that
yeah. She goes,
sustainable.
yeah. It's like, yeah, 6 grand. That sounds great. I do that 4 times a year. Then I've got to pay you.
That was the sentiment. So she finds out that the other fighters in the same hotel. So she phones the room service or whatever and asks them, "Oh, can you give me this person in the hotel?" And gets her to come to her room. And it's like, "Are you sick of being screwed over? That we make the least amount of money. They're selling out the arena. They're making merchandise sales. People paying for pay-per-view at home, streaming it online, and we get next to nothing compared to what they're actually making."
Yeah.
So they decide they concoct a plan to throw the fight and get someone who has money to put a giant bet on the fight, and they're going to rig it. So, and then when they win, they'll split the proceeds. The person who's making the bet gets was it 20% off the top from the
Yeah,
winnings,
something like
and then they split the rest 50-50. But there's this great moment. Because honestly, up until this point in the episode, I wasn't really that engaged into it. Like, I wasn't really sure what is the actual drama
yeah, it
here.
was like, okay, this is fine, but it's not hooking me.
And then there's that moment where she's like, "Oh, the odds are even." So obviously, if the odds hadn't been even, it'd have been an obvious choice. Whoever has the better odds, you vote against them, and therefore you get more money.
Yeah,
Simple, right?
it's would have been the easy choice then, wouldn't it?
But they're even. So she puts the phone and says, "Hey, the odds are even." So she needs to know who to vote for or who to bet for, who's winning. And they're like, "I'm not." Like, she's not
Yeah,
willing to
this is like,
say.
we'll phone you back.
Yeah, she just gets that they're not going to be able to decide that easily. It's like, okay, right, just get the money, we'll do it in the morning, we'll phone you back. And then they start debating about who should do it. And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. Because they say right here, we both agree that we're both retiring after this fight. It doesn't actually matter. We just want the money, which will be a lot if they're betting hundreds of thousands on the fight.
Yeah.
The payday is going to be quite good. And, like, yeah, it doesn't actually matter. And then, like, so there's a bit more of the fight, and then it comes back, and then it's like they're having an arm wrestling competition to see who wins. And I was like, okay, it's okay,
And it
mate.
gets to that, and you kind of go, okay, I see where this how this
Yeah.
gets to the fight. It's like I get what's going on.
Yeah, so basically the whole point of the episode is that because of their pride, they actually have to decide who wins by actually having the fight themselves. They want to have the fight in closed doors, see who wins, and then that's who they'll say to the other person. That's,
Yeah,
who's going to win. Um, and like, okay, 3 rounds, and they start putting the beds up, and they get all the furniture out the way, and they have. Although I'm still convinced that whoever's underneath them or whoever's next door is like just like, what is that noise? Like, just especially
oh,
when they start throwing each other into the window, they have like smashed window, then into the wall. There's like,
next to the like, I'm not getting involved.
yeah, the episode
Turn off
literally
that.
ends with like the contractor coming in and like measuring up what he has to fix. That's like how
It's
messed up
quite a
this room
lot.
goes. But it keeps going, and they keep fighting, and it gets more heated, and they get to the third round, and because it cuts back, it actually gets kind of funny at one point because it cuts back to them saying, right, let's avoid the face because we can't look bad for tomorrow, and then it cuts back to like the fight, and they're both like bleeding profusely from the face, and like they're all bruised and battered, and
Yeah.
whatever. I think it had a hard start to the episode because honestly, the pair of them aren't overly likable because they're being so macho about everything.
Yeah.
It's not until the moment where you realise, okay, they have to know for their pride who actually wins, that it starts to become interesting. Up until that point,
it still doesn't make them that likable.
it doesn't. But at least there's a conflict that I understand. Up until that point, it's like, okay, right, I get why they're doing this, but like,
Yeah.
they're not very likable. They swear a lot. They're constantly complaining about things. It's it's that kind of thing. But it's like, no. So the third round ends, and they've still not had a winner. And they're like, we're not finishing this until one of us taps. That's how we end this.
And they're both like, yeah, I never tapped.
Because they can't do points because obviously there's no judges, so it has to be a tap or a knockout, I suppose, if that's what it comes to. And eventually it's Graina who has Greta in an arm lock kind of thing, has her on like an arm bar, whatever the specific move was, and it's like you feel that the arm's about to break, and she's refusing to tap.
And she says it's tap or I'll break your arm.
Yeah, and then that's when it cuts to the next morning, and you see
it just cuts to black, and it sits on that black for a good few seconds.
You thought it was over,
and I was expecting like, right, am I going to hear a tap or a crack? I was there just going, what am I going to hear? And then just nothing.
I thought it was going to be ambiguous and just like give us like the.
I thought it was just going to do a noise, and it was like you can interpret that as a tap or a crack as you wish.
Okay, I can see that. But it cuts to this guy, like he's in the morning to fix. He's like looking out the window. He's got his measuring tape out. He's like, but because there's a big hole in the wall, he can hear the TV next door, and it's these guys watching the fight, the fight that they're having on TV, and he eventually sort of shouts through and says, "Oh, what are you watching? Sounds fun." And he's like, "Oh, we're watching this fight. It's the best fight ever. These two girls are kicking the crap out of each other. It's like the biggest fight ever."
Yeah, like they're really going for it.
And the guy actually just says, "Come over and watch the rest. It's fine. Come on." And he's like, "Okay." So we stay, but obviously it's room 104. We have to stay, but we're the audience. We have to stay in room 104. The furthest we ever get is a reverse shot if someone's standing at the door. We'll get that. That's kind of us outside.
Yeah, that's almost cheating.
Or looking through the window, maybe we've had that, but that's it. That is the most we've ever left the room. So we just focus on this hole in the wall, and the camera just sort of slowly tracks in as we go, and we hear the commentators talking about the fighting and how they just won't give up, and then it's like, oh, she's got her arm lock, oh, like she's refusing to tap, and then you just hear the crunch.
Yeah,
and then it cuts to
it's
black.
like, okay, I get it. Like last night she didn't because they still needed to have this fight.
Yeah.
But she let herself get to this point and let her break the arm because that's where they were at.
Here's the thing, though. I think they still had the deal. I still think they made the money.
Oh,
yeah. I think because I think the one way you could interpret this is that they get so pissed off that neither of them are winning that they just have it for real in the ring. They have to have a winner. But what I think's actually happened is they get to this point with the armbar and they realise that this is the only believable way this is going to end, is that I'm going to have to break your arm.
Yeah, they were like, no, this is it. You've lost this. I've got you at this point. We both know you either tap or I break your arm right now.
And she would rather have the dignity of not tapping.
And yeah, she would rather have the arm broken, but they know if they break the arm now, they can't have the fight. So it's like, look, we'll put on the fight tomorrow. We'll get to this point, and you can break my arm, and that's it.
That's how I'm interpreting it, honestly.
That's what I did too.
Yeah, because I feel like it's kind of, as someone who's watched wrestling in the past, it's kind of like, because that's all written and it's all about, like what wins make sense and that kind of thing. One of the things you can tap in wrestling, but it makes the wrestlers potentially look weak. So sometimes to not make them look weak, you have it end in a sort of where they'll refuse to tap, but they'll pass out instead, and it makes them look really tough. Like they don't look weak because like they fought as much as they could through the pain.
They lost, but they have the pride because they didn't surrender.
Like so you have that kind of thing, and it's almost what ends up happening here. At least that's how we're interpreting it. You could argue that they just couldn't decide, and they wanted to fight for real, regardless of the money.
Yeah, and I don't think the commentators actually specify who's got who in the arm lock. So it could be the other way around if you really want to think of it that way. Like, just the possibilities are there. You
kind of assume because that's how it ended the previous way that's what it is in the actual fight in the ring. But Yeah, and I guess if you want to like, argue from the other point of view, where you think no, they just couldn't pick a winner, so they had to have the fight for real, so the deal was off. Is that the one conversation they have in between rounds where, oh, what are you going to do after you've done with this? What are you going to do with the money? And neither of them know. They have no answer. Like, this is all we know. You could argue that that's maybe a sign that, as much as they're getting screwed over, like this is just the life for them. Like they have nothing else. And maybe, I mean, even though one of them has kids, but like the way they just both talk in that scene, like, this is just who we are. So you could argue that. I think that's the evidence.
I just don't think it just doesn't sit right for me. I think it is, they just got up to that point. She wanted to go out with her pride. She doesn't want to tap out as her final fight. She wants to go out and she's like, if I'm going out, I'm going out with the broken arm.
Yeah, because then it's stopped. She's not the one who stopped it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
It was good though. Like once it got into it.
Once it got to that moment in the phone where it's like, oh, which one of us is winning? That's where it picked up and got interesting. But up until then, it was kind of like, okay, there's fighting.
It's about a third in.
Yeah. But then I get into it after that, and it became a pretty solid episode, I thought, after that fact.
The fighting looked good as well. Like again, early on, it was just a bit, okay, whatever. You just, it was very basic.
It's because when we first started the episode, like I guess they wanted to start with action, and that's why they cut back and forth. Because I think it would have been really repetitive had it been in order, and then it was just solid fighting.
Long fight, yeah. But when you got to the main chunk of the fight, once we caught up to it, and you had the actual main bit, I think that was really stylized. It looked good. When they're throwing each other into the wall. Yeah,
that was good stuff. The problem with the start is not even just that it's filmed kind of simply. It was also that it was just them kind of in like locks in the ground. There was no
rolling around basically.
Yeah. So yeah, but it got more interesting as it went along. So I would say I liked this episode quite a bit. It's just that first third, the hook wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. There you go.
Just one more left now, isn't it?
Yeah, next week's the finale. That's it. We're done.
Wonder they've got holding back for the last one.
I don't know. The little thumbnail has got two old people in it, so that's as much as I can tell you.
Okay.
But there you go. So that has been episode 11 of Room 104, The Fight. So let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, you can do that over at patreon.com/mailfuzztv, but otherwise that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?